Welcome to the Bibliophile's Garden. Each week, your local librarian / amateur gardener / amateur videographer will share some tips and tricks on organic gardening that you can use in your own home garden. So tune in. Our first subject this week will be collard greens, a vegetable with rich history and a lot of nutrition, and I think you'll enjoy it. Welcome to today's episode of the Bibliophile's Garden, and as promised, today's topic will be all about collard greens. What you're looking at now are the tiny brown seeds that are produced when collard greens start producing seeds, or what they call bolt. And the little pieces of chaff is what is left over from the dried seed pods that the seeds were harvested from. Now, if you let your greens winter, don't pull them up in the late fall, just let them stay there in the winter. Early spring, when the temperatures start to rise, they should start producing yellow flowers, which in turn will lead to seed pods. And if you allow those seed pods to dry, don't pluck them while they're green, but let them sit on those collard green stems. You let them dry, you'll have seeds that are viable. So this is a great way to save yourself money if you plant your greens from seeds. And then you harvest the seeds, and then you can do it all over again the next season. So these are your collard green seeds and what they look like. Okay, now I mentioned that your collard greens, if you let them winter, they can last for years. For example, this collard green, this is about, I believe it's 4 years old. And normally what it does is that this is my big producer of seeds. So I just leave it alone, and every spring it will go to flower and it will produce seeds. I'm not sure about this spring. The way you can tell, if you look at the top, do you use Buchanan? I don't see the top of the flower, or what will become the flower on this one. But if you go over to this one, this is a younger one. This is going into year 2. You see that? Can you zoom in? That is what will go to bolt, where your flowers will come out, and hopefully you'll get your seed pods. Now, you may be wondering, if I let them winter, why do I need seeds? It's always good to have a fresh stock of seeds, because sometimes you don't know the life of the plant. I hope that this old guy right here continues with me, but this may be its final year. But if you plant some new greens every spring, you'll definitely be guaranteed to have some seed producing plants. As you probably know, collard greens have a long history with African American culture, Southern culture, and even white Southern culture. Down south, you would hear terms like cooking up a mess of greens, drinking pot liquor, getting some ham hocks to cook with the greens. So people have known for generations that these vegetables, when you do them up right, they're very tasty, but there are also many health benefits. They're a great source of iron. There's a documentary about a Georgia midwife in the 1950s. I'll post the link to it at the end of this, who, while delivering babies, would make sure that they were cooking up a pot of collard greens to feed the mother after she delivered the baby. Why? Because of the blood loss. Collard greens build up the blood, and they're a great source of iron. So, and they're very easy to grow. You have your seeds. You make sure the weather is past the last frost. You plant them. You plant the seeds, not too deep. Keep it watered and leave it alone. Just leave them alone. And then after a few weeks, you'll see the little baby greens coming up. You can thin them out to give them more space to grow. And eventually, when the time comes, you can start picking your leaves. What I like to do is, as they get bigger, I like to put a stake to keep them growing upright. And I was just talking about previously about bolting. This little baby right here, that's going to be a seed producer. You see that? This is going to be a good seed producer. I'll hold on to it. But over here, if I was going, I just harvested from these greens right here. So I'm not going to do it today. But normally I would take the leaf and you just pull it down. I work my way up. You get the older leaves at the bottom because as you can see, the newer leaves, they grow from the top of the plant. So your older ones at the bottom and you pluck from that. Also, as the weather gets warmer, you might run into pests, mites, and believe it or not, snails. They love collard greens. Cabbage worms, collards are a member of the cabbage family. All of them love collard greens. So what can you do? Last year I had a problem with snails, so I bought organic snail killer. Basically, I put some of it in the soil. That took care of that. I removed all the bitten up leaves, but I also use, you could pan over, follow me, this lovely ingredient, neem oil. If you use Shea Moisture products for your hair, if you're natural, this is something that you'll see in a lot of their products. I found it funny. But I make a concoction. Neem oil is my base. And I combine it with some other ingredients. And this is my homemade pesticide that you spray the leaves with it and it'll kill the mites that love to dine on your collard green leaves. But also when it's time to clean them, you got to clean them really good. So if you want to know what I put in my homemade bug killer for collard greens using neem oil, I will put that in the comments and I'll list it. And this was just a brief overview about the beautiful collard green. Stand back. It's nutritious, easy to grow, and I hope to see it in many gardens throughout Uniondale and Hempstead, North Baldwin, and parts of Westbury in our library district. Next, on our next episode of the Bibliophile's Garden, we're going to talk about cilantro, the herb that just won't die. Thank you for tuning in.